Okay, it's 2:01. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pablo Avila from the Center for Teaching and Learning. Thank you for signing up for this Q&A webinar on Blackboard. We're going to be covering two features today. One is going to be the tests and quizzes, and the other one is going to be the Grade Center. Last week, we had a Q&A session on discussion boards and Grade Center as well. The Grade Center part was the level 1. Today we're going to be covering additional features. Jetmir is going to be facilitating that. And my colleague Jose, both of them, Jetmir and Jose from the IT, will be conducting that Q&A. We have a total of 37 people on the call. There's 23 as of this moment. The way that we run this session is we gave you 2 brief videos right at the beginning so that you can watch and remind yourselves about these 2 features. And then I'm going to ask you on the chat in just a moment to start posting your questions so that we can get to as many of them as possible. But before we do that, I want to quickly share something with you. You should be able to see my screen right now. This is on the LaGuardia website. And we're making all of these recordings available to everyone, especially for faculty who are not able to attend to these sessions. And the recordings are made available on this page. And also future sessions will be made available on this page as well. We're going to have another session next week on Thursday so that we can go over specifically Dropbox and how to share files on Blackboard for avoiding storage issues as well. So there's going to be other sessions. We're going to post them all in here. And just today, I actually realized that Marketing and Communication has also been posting other webinars that are happening outside LaGuardia. And you can see the full list, the menu of options right here. Take a look at those titles and make sure that you, if you have a chance to register. So I will stop this. If you're joining us from either your laptop or from your phone or from your tablet, you should be able to see the chat button at the bottom. If you open that up, you will be able to submit a question, just like a regular chat room. And what I would like you to do is if you could just insert your name and your area, and then one question that you have about these 2 specific features, tests or quizzes, and Grade Center. And if you have a question, go ahead and start typing it. I'm gonna get started. I just put my name there. Again, your name, the area where you're coming from, the academic department, or the area where you're coming from, and then your one question that you would like to pose to the rest of the group. We're going to start with discussions, and I'm sorry, with tests with Jose. I'm gonna hand it over to him in just a moment. And then the second part of this session will be on the Grade Center. And my colleague Jetmir will then start going over those questions. I will be moderating this as best as I can, filtering the questions and making sure that as many questions as possible get to be answered by our 2 experts. All right, Jetmir and Jose, anything else that I'm forgetting?
You're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
You're always very prompt, very on point.
Thank you, thank you. So we're gonna start with quizzes and tests, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Jose, who will be sharing his screen, and then we will start with any questions that anybody would like to pose. There's already, I'm seeing one. How do upload a pre-existing test? Let's start with that, Jose. Jose, are you there?
Oops, tech fall. We had the mic muted. Hello, hi everybody. Again, my name is Jose. I work for the Blackboard team. So to answer the question, how do we upload a pre-existing test? So if you're talking about a pre-existing test, are you talking about a test that you created on Blackboard, or a test that you were like had a paper and pen? Are you talking about those pre-existing tests, or like how's the test?
It's in a Word document.
It's in a Word document. Okay. So now when it comes to creating Word document tests, it's going to be a little bit different. Let me share my screen right now. Okay. All right. So if I were to go to my course itself and you want to work on adding those tests, the test that you're gonna, if you're gonna import a Word document, it's not gonna be able to do it like that. In order to upload a test itself, you need to have it created whether in a text file or in an Excel sheet as a SCV format. I'll be able to share the link of resources that you'll be able to copy, and in order to transfer the information from the Word document to an acceptable format for Blackboard. I'm gonna open up like an example of what it would look like to have one of these text files or SCVs per se. Okay, let me open up the document right now. See, I have it here.
And while you do that, Jose, just a reminder on the chat button at the bottom of your screen, if you can insert your name, the area where you're coming from, and the question that you would like to share with in today's session. And I'll be trying to go over as many of them as possible.
Right. Thanks, Pablo. So here's an example of what it will look like. So, you know, typically you'll have your, let's say on your Word document, you have your title, your question, maybe parentheses, question number 1. And then under you have A, B, and C, right? Then next question, question 2, question title, and then the choices on the bottom. As you can see, in the format that you'll transfer that into a text file per se will be this format. So in here, I am having a multiple choice, which is an MC. Then you transfer this by indenting, type in the question, which is here. You indent, and then you start providing the responses. So it's a little bit of work that you have to do when it comes to transferring those, creating an exam that's compatible into Blackboard. So if you don't want to create the exam by using the format, the the typical creation by building a test within Blackboard, and you want to, let's say, work on an SCP file or a text file, this will be the way to do it. And I'll be able to share with Pablo, and I'll share the link for you guys, so that this way, if you have any other questions of this specific format, or I can specifically share this file with you guys, if you guys want to replicate that and incorporate it into your test, I'll be able to do that as well. But that's how pretty much, if you want to use a pre-existing test, you will have to transfer it into a format that Blackboard will be able to accept it.
Thank you.
No
let's go with, I think this is a simple question, Jose. How can I see the students' answers?
Students' answers? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I were to have a student, if a student were to reply to one of my exams, let me see if if one of my students were to reply to my exams or the questions, and you were to see all the responses, you will have to go under the Grade Center and then click on Needs Grading. And Needs Grading, you will see all the students' attempts in here, listed by their title, by their name, alongside with the title of the item, such as if it's a test 1, you'll see test 1, and therefore you'll be able to click on the name in order to see the students' responses. Now, this needs grading applies for both tests and assignments. So you want to see what your students submitted to you, you go under Grade Center and click on Needs Grading. This will show you everything that pretty much requires your attention, and you'll be able to see what the student submitted, and then you provide your grade for that.
Okay, we are moving ahead. There's a question I had right here. Again, on the chat room, you're including your name, the area where you're coming from, and a question. I'm trying to go over them as many as best as I can. One of them from Joanne. During an exam, if a student loses connection or gets kicked off, besides resetting the exam, is there any way to retrieve the student's work?
Yes. So when, in an example, if you were to have a case where a student has taken an exam. So right now, I'm going to go and take one of my tests as a student. So let me make this test available real quick. I'm going to switch it to make it available. I'm gonna hide this. Okay. I'm gonna enter as a student. Let's say as a student, I'm gonna answer all these questions, but I'm gonna answer question 1, right? Save and submit. And for some reason I lost connection and stuff like that. I didn't answer the second question. As instructor, right now I'm just, playing around with the switching from student into, as an instructor, the way that you'll see it is you can go to the full grade center. You can also see it in East Grading, but you can go to the full grade center. Then you go to the exam under the student that submitted the exam. On the drop-down arrow, you'll be able to see the view grade details. And then you can see the attempts. By showing them the attempts, when you look at test information, it'll show you right here, for example, the amount of time the student consumed, or when did they start it, when did they finished. So by determining some of the factors, because when a student's connection drops, and this happens a lot when taking online tests, when taking on Blackboard tests, on Blackboard is very sensitive. So for example, that's what we recommend, to do a LAN connection, a wire connection to the computer. Try to avoid to use Wi-Fi if possible, because there's chances that the Wi-Fi might drop for the brief second, and then the test gets submitted automatically. And that's why also we recommend professors just to allow maybe 2 multiple attempts, for cases like this, if this were to happen, for students to not go under that stress and contact the professor, and the professor has to clear the attempts and allow the student to open it again. But in here, you'll be able to see the access log, and it will show you how much time they spent on the question itself. So here we kind of determine, like, for example, I see, for example, Jose has spent maybe 7 seconds on question number 2, on question number 1, and on question 1 he spent 0 seconds. And, and you start to kind of determine, oh, I see that he spent 0 seconds from question 2 and up, which means something might have happened there. So that's why we can determine maybe the student maybe submitted by mistake, it closed the window, or the connection dropped. So there's some things that you can check.
Can you quickly go over, in response to one question, how can I make my test available for 1 single hour as if it was a class time?
Okay, so if you want to make your test available for 1 single hour, when you go to deploy the test, right, you put your test in the location where you want to show your test for your students. In this case, I put my test in my content area, right? I locate the test, and next to the test, I'll have the drop-down arrow, which give me the test options. Not to edit the test, but I'm editing the test options. By clicking on the test options itself, I'm gonna scroll to the bottom where it will show me test availability. This is the display time. So this is when it's visible to students to see it. Here you have a timer. So for example, if your class is from 2 to 3, and if you want to make your test available only for an hour, you can make this available from 2 to 3. So this way they can only see it at that time. And you can set a timer for 60 minutes. Also, what you can do, if you want to have the test available, let's say if your class is only on Fridays, but you start building the test, you start putting the test from Monday, but you don't want this, students to see this kind of thing. This is when the availability will come in handy. So this is when to display it. As well, you have on the bottom, this is the due date. But if you're doing the display option, or kind of, you won't need a due date. The due date will come in handy if you say you post the test available on Monday, but I want my students to have it ready by Wednesday. So that's when you can specify on the due date, but that Wednesday is when I want this test to be taken care of, even though it'll be available, let's say, from Monday through Friday.
And Jose, if you're still there, maybe I'm not entirely sure if this is there, this option is there, but how do you enable an extended time for one particular student who may say, a student who may have a disability and needs extra time for a test?
Sure. So for example, if I keep scrolling to where it says test availability exceptions, this is where you can add the exception for that particular student. So the way that you add the exception is by clicking where it says add a user and group, and I'll see the list of my students that are part of your course already. So from here, I'm able to check the student that needs that extra time or the settings. I click submit, and then right there on the bottom, it asks me the typical questions. For example, how many attempts? Do you want single attempts? Multiple attempts, how many attempts you want to give them? For example, maybe 2 or 3. Just let's say they missed, they have a note or whatever the case is. The timer, and here they have the option for availability, so you can also set the date and time if you choose to. So which means is that this student will be able to take the test whenever this is done. Now, one important thing when you guys are doing this is if you guys are making an exception, you also got to make sure that the test is available to students. So in this case, if you were to have it as no, and you give so you click no and you give the student an exception, the student still won't be able to see because the test is not available to students. So that one thing you got to make sure is to make it yes, because I have seen cases where instructors, they add like certain particular students that they missed. After they took up the test, they don't want students to just have the test available on Blackboard. They just switch it to no, and sometimes this is the stuff that happens.
There's a question. Oh, I think I lost it. There's a question. Someone who asked about plagiarism. They checked the plagiarism button at the. Oh, I checked the plagiarism button at the bottom at student, when the student submits something, how can I check that they did not use the web?
Oh, that will fall under assessments. That doesn't fall under test. So for tests, the way that the preventative measures that you can do is you can create, for example, when you go to the test options, for example, right? You go to test presentations. What you can do is you can, if you want to make it, difficult per se for them, you can make it maybe present one at a time, prohibit backtracking, or you can randomize questions. But when it comes to, I guess, giving it a test on the internet, there's kind of no way that you can control the format that'll be able to attain certain information. But as regards to plagiarism for assignments, that'll be something else.
Okay. And someone asked a question, I think, on the listserv. How do I make sure that my test is available to students who are using the Blackboard phone app, those who may not have a computer? And I think your answer, Jose, was to make sure that there's a mobile version of the test available. Could you show us that?
Yeah, yes. So for example, if you want to create a test that's also accessible for users that are using a mobile device, they're just sticking to a mobile Blackboard app, you will have to create the Blackboard, the test itself to be supported on Blackboard. So the way that you'll do it is by going to assessments. You see it says mobile compatible test. By clicking on mobile compatible test, you're starting creating the test itself. Just like if you were to create the test by using the create test from the test service and pools, you'll start to create the test itself. So I'm gonna do test exam 1, hello, available, usually times, dates, how many attempts I want my students, I'm gonna say 2, save settings.
Does this mean, Jose, that if I have a regular test that I already set up, do I have to recreate it again on a mobile version, or can I tweak and convert the regular test into a mobile version?
For that, I don't wanna say 100% yes. I will look into that to see if there's a way that this way you don't have double work, right? You don't have to copy it, like start creating, because let's say if you have a test with 100 questions, you don't want to spend the whole time to create those 100 questions again. Okay. I'll get back to you on that one to see if there's a way to just transfer easily, make it as a compatible format.
I'm trying to go over all of the questions. You are also, you're also able to unmute yourself and pose a question if you would like. I'm just trying to go over the questions as many as I can. Anybody who would like who would like to raise a question now? We're talking about tests and quizzes on Blackboard, and in about 9 minutes we're going to shift to the Grade Center.
This is Sue Livingston again. I just want to make sure that I understood Jose correctly about uploading pre-existing tests. So in other words, if I have my test in a PDF or in an Excel form, I could more easily upload it?
Right. So I'll show you how it works in that process. Let's say once you create it, like you put it in that format that I was talking about. So how would you do that, right? So for example, once I have that format, I have that file in my computer or somewhere, I'm going to go to Course Tools. I'm going to go to Test Servers and Pools as like if I were to be creating one. But in here, you're not creating a test. You're uploading the questions, which is the pool, right? So I will click Pools. And in here, as you can see, this is the ones that I've been testing. You're going to import a pool. By clicking on import a pool, you're going to browse on your computer. I'm going to search for that. I'm going to search for the example that I have, which is right here, text, the TXT file. I click submit. If I have errors, which is already submitted, I submitted this file already, you'll get the pool showing up right here as an example that I shown before. Since that text file, I was playing around with stuff, I got error messages. That's some of the other things that I have to work on, but you'll get it like this. So what it looks like, what does it look like? I'm gonna open it up, and here are pretty much the questions itself that relates to the things that you were creating. On here, on the right-hand side, you see multiple choice, which is in the text file. I don't know if you remember, I put MC if it's a multiple choice. If it's a true and false, you put TF, and so forth. I'll forward you that information. So if you have any questions like how to create the different types, you'll be able to look at that link, and then thus help yourselves with that too.
And
Thank you.
Jose, I think the answer to this is yes, but if you create a test as an instructor and then you want to see how that test will look like to your students, you can always enable the student view and then preview what that test will look like for your students, correct?
Correct, 100%, yes.
Could you show us how to enable the student view?
Yes. So for example, this is your whole Blackboard, right? As you can see right here next to your make available, which now they made it easier for users to make the course available. Before you had to go to a little, finding things. So now just to make your course available, you'll just click on this little lock. Mm-hmm. This little lock right next to it on the left-hand side, you have the two arrows and a dot. This is the student preview mode right here. By clicking on this, you'll get a big yellow banner showing that you are in the student preview. Another way that you can tell that you're on the student preview is that on the left-hand side, you don't see your course management, right? So I'm gonna go to the content. I'm gonna see the test, and I'm gonna click begin. So then I'll show you what it looks like. Since I already, demonstrated that I took the exam before, this is the message that I'll say. You completed the test on April 3rd, or whatever time. And then if I wanna see the attempts, I'll show the attempts, and it shows you my attempts. If I wanna see my questions, I'll double click on the number itself, and then I'll show you the questions alongside with the responses. But all this is done at the feedback as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think in general, you are able to preview any part of your Blackboard course and how it would look like to students if you enable the student preview, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Here's another question. The person says, I created a test. It appeared on the left side of the Blackboard screen. How can I move it to the content folder?
Appear on the left is like so, right. Remember, this is the content area for your students, right? Right here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you create a test, there's two ways that you'll create a test. One, let's say you go to the content area, you go to assessment and tests. You can create a test from here. But also when you go to create a test from the course tools, right? You go create tests, and this is all the tests I've created. How do you add it here is the question, right?
I think so, yes. The question came from Carmencita Lavilla. Carmencita, mm-hmm. If you're there, maybe you can add clarification to your question. You can unmute yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's my question. That's the only problem I had. So my test titles are shown on the left side. I want it to be in the content folder. It's already deployed. Everything is fine.
Okay, so it's already deployed. So it means it's already like on a folder here, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So what do you mean? Where do you want to put it? You want to like
put it in the content? Yeah.
But it's already in the content.
But you say you're
right?
already in the content? If it's deployed, it means that the students are able to see it like it's any other folder. So for example, if I were to like create another section called exams, right? And then you just want to put if you want to put the test in this folder,
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yes, take it out, put it in the content, yeah.
Oh, you want to copy, transfer it into
Correct.
another. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So for example, I have my exams here in the content, right? And I want to move it to another content folder, such as exams on the left, right?
Okay.
I'm going to go to where I have my material. And let's say I want this test one, and I want to move it here. The way you will do it is you'll click on the drop-down arrow next to the file,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll have move.
Okay.
When it says move, it'll ask you, where do you want to move it? And then you can select. This is by default. You see are you able to see this?
Yes.
Okay. You'll be able to see the folders that you created, which is information, content, and the ones that I created, which is exams. So I just click exams and submit.
Okay. Yes.
And then therefore, as you see, my test number 1 that I created is no longer here. But if I go to my exams, my test number 1 is there now.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jose, here's a question. How can I provide feedback on a test which is on a PDF format?
PDF format. When it comes to test PDF format, like what do you mean? Like they're uploading it, the test as a PDF?
Mangala, you can unmute yourself and add clarification for your question. Do you want to jump in? Go right ahead.
Yeah, that's my question. Actually, my students sometimes, because it's mathematics, typing there is difficult for students in a Word document. They have to use Microsoft equations and things like that. So if I post my test in a PDF format and I have to download that file to grade it, right?
Right.
When I grade it, how do I provide comment? Let's say they made a mistake somewhere in the problem when they provided solutions. I want to write there what mistake they made, or I want to provide them feedback on their answers. So how can I do that?
So for example, you'll treat that as pretty much as an assignment because they're uploading PDFs. Now, PDFs and Word documents, when you open up to view grade details and you start to grade them, you'll be able to add those comments and you'll be able to add the feedback on the right-hand side as an instructor. Right now, I'm in a student preview, so if a professor was to write something, I'll be able to click on the thing on the little blue comment, and then it will show me the message. Now, how did I get here, right? I'll get out of the student preview. I'm going to go into the instructor view. As an instructor, you're going to go to typical. You're going to go to your full grade center, and in this case, since it's an assignment, I'm going to go to view grade details. Right? You can click on view attempts to see the document that the students provided. So, and if it's a PDF, the box reader should be able to read it, so you can actually see these tools. If the student, for example, copied and pasted on the comment section, which is on the bottom where you submit something, is just a comment. Or if they were to write the submission, these tools will not be available for them. So only if they upload a PDF document or a Word document and extension, you'll be able to get the box reader for you to be able to free write and write documents and then add your comments on particular stuff.
Okay.
Likewise, on the top left where it says feedback to learner, under the attempt, you can type in your messages as well. And you're not only limited to messages, you can also provide voice messages, as well as you can use the math editor to provide anything that you're asking about.
Okay.
It is 2:30.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Someone else had a question? Go right ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's very. You're cutting off.
I think we're losing you. Do you mind checking your microphone, or maybe you can type your question, whichever works easier. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that was Shadi. So I think we're able to hear you, but it's a little difficult. We're not able to understand.
okay. I'll try again.
Oh,
I was
it's
wondering
better
about,
now.
We can hear you. It's better now. Go right ahead.
all right, all right. When the option,
Oh, not again.
the answers.
It's something about the answers.
Yeah, can I or to that I provide the answers?
In the
So does it provide a grade? The answers I provided.
oh, if you provide the grade.
Yeah, does like after all the answers, does Blackboard have the option to grade the exam answers I provided?
Oh, yes, but that's when you create the exam itself. So remember, when you're creating tests, Blackboard will be able to grade the questions when it comes to like assign answers, such as multiple choice or let's say true and false. But when it comes to like written responses, such as let's say short answers, essay formats, you will always will be able to find, you'll always have to go into the test itself in order to, see the response and then give the provider grade for that. Because, short answers can always vary, and multiple choice and true false is this very static answer because you tell Blackboard what the answer is. So if the student chooses that answer, then they got it correct. As for essays and all these written responses, you have to go into the question itself and verify to see if the student got that answer correct or not. Hopefully that answers the question.
So the answers I provide, the student will not get a feedback whether it's correct or wrong.
Oh, whether the feedback. Okay. So that's different. So let's say I'm gonna go into my exams. Now that falls under the options for the test. How is display? So I'm gonna go to my test options for my test that I created. Right. I'm gonna go all the way to the bottom right here where it says shows test results and feedback. So here's where you can start working on how do you want the feedback to be displayed to your students. Do you want the students to see it after submission? Do you want it to see after attempts are graded? On a specific day, after the due date, right? You want to show the score per question, and here is where you can check off. Let's say you want to show all answers. So if it's a multiple choice, you want to show A, B, and C, and D, you can click on that. You can also show all the correct answers that they got, as well as the feedback. For example, if you typed an per question, you can provide a feedback to any of the answers that they put in. You can type it, you can check off that, as well as you can show the incorrect questions. You can check off this in order to show pretty much everything that your student has done. But if you want to tailor that to accordingly, however you want to display it, you can take certain things off as well. You have a second option as you can customize the way that your students see your feedback. Hopefully it does.
So it's 2:35. We're gonna shift gears now and start talking about the Grade Center. A couple of folks were asking about going over things that we have gone over in this recording so far. This will be available later on the link that I just provided on the chat room. So you are going to be able to watch this again and pause and go over specific things as needed that Jose went over. Thank you, Jose, for all of that. I'll keep filtering the questions for you, Jose, and then I'll send them to you via the chat room so that we can cover the questions that we didn't get to cover during your part.
Yeah.
So Jetmir, let's talk about the Grade Center. There's so many questions. I'm trying to go back. So Jetmir, if you share your screen, let's just start with, there was one about how do I convert grade letters to numeric letters to grade letters.
Okay, well, first of all, hi everybody. I hope everyone is safe. And before I start doing that, I'm looking forward to some challenging questions from Luke there.
Yes, always.
Okay, so yeah, definitely. So we'll just go to a course here under the full grade center. I'll go to one of my columns that I have created here, and next to the name of the column, I'll just right click here, and then edit column information, it's where we want to go. And then from this point halfway down, here it is, primary display, secondary display. Some folks like to have two different displays, sometimes letter grade and percentage. If that's the case, this is where you control. You select letter and percentage or score, it's up to you. In my case, I never do that, but just, you know, just so we cover it. And then by essentially hitting submit, now you can just use the letter grade to submit the, your scores. I hope that's straightforward. And do we have any other questions?
I'm going through the chat room right now, but anybody, unmute yourself and jump in with a question about Grade Center.
Sounds good. Yep.
Anybody? It seems that we cover everything. Oh,
Hello.
go right ahead. Yes, go right ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
I would just like to review how to comment when you're within the text. I'm just still kind of unclear about that. Giving comments and feedback when you are within the text itself.
Oh, okay. Hi, Tulip. Nice to hear from you again.
Hi.
I think that's a very important question. I think we covered it this week together via Zoom session we had. That was wonderful. I thought it was constructive. I am glad to cover that again.
Thank you.
I'm going to cover the feedback within a like cover everything essentially. So one way to leave feedback, it's also, if it's like a quick feedback, we can just leave a comment right here, quick comment, and then we can just type wherever the feedback is, and then that's just one way of doing the feedback. Now another feedback, if somebody submits something, I don't have anything submitted. Jose, do you have something submitted so we can show how to leave the comment and draw? Are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah. Do you have that? Because I don't have any student who. I'm gonna stop sharing mine, and then perhaps I think you had one before.
Well, I guess what you can do is you can submit something as yourself. You can go into the student preview mode and then.
Okay, let's do that. Yep. Share the screen again then. Okay.
Yeah, and then just as your student preview, go ahead and like try to submit something so they can see what it looks like.
Okay, so let me go to this area here. Okay. Enter student preview.
While Jetmir is doing that, just a quick reminder, Jose is jumping in with answers to previous questions.
I have a question about this also because
Go right ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
Hi, Pablo?
Yes, go right ahead.
I'm sorry, I have a question about this also. I was trying to do this to see myself how it looks from the student view and trying to submit my own answers there to see, you know, how I can provide feedback and learn on my own. But if Jetmir can share that also, how he is going to submit a test answers there from the student view, that would be great.
Yeah, so we'll start with this, as Tulip mentioned. This was a submission, a test, so I don't have that option. So let me see if I can submit something very quickly as a like a document of some sort, which I am on Mac here. I don't have the Word document, so I'll try to just do something here very quickly. Okay, go to assignment 2. Okay. Browse. Didn't have any document. I'm so okay. Let's do it in here. Let's do the information. Looks okay. All right. So let's hit open here and submit. So I'm submitting just something that is random here. Okay. And then I don't even know what that is, but that's fine. So now I'll just exit. Keep the data. So what I just did is I accessed Blackboard as student and I submitted something as student. And then on the other side now, I am an instructor to go to check the attempt. So this is what we covered with Tulip, and I think it's very useful to cover it again. So here's a document, and with respect to the feedback, here are the options. You have the option to use the pen tool and directly use it as such. You also have the option to comment over. For example, if I want to comment right here, I'll just type it and I'll just say test. I can just leave the feedback there. That is another way of a feedback. I'll hit cancel for the moment. I also have the option to leave a feedback on this box. Usually we, as instructors, leave an overall feedback here about their submissions. You can also add notes for yourself. If you want to attach something like a more thorough feedback, you can also insert a file. So with respect to the feedback, that is how you would do it from the Grade Center. And I hope that's helpful, Tulip.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
And again, we are doing a recording on this, so please feel free to go back to this moment and take advantage of, and I believe last week recordings, Jose, I think, covered this as well. So I think you can either do it from here or the next time.
Thank you. Awesome. No problem.
Yes.
Jetmir, if you have put together all of the grades on the Grade Center and you want to download that as in a spreadsheet, that's something that you cover on the video, but could you go over that again? Because I think that's very helpful, especially for folks who need to submit this document to their departments.
Towards the end of the semester, we all need to do that. We need to take a copy, and then essentially it's right here, download. You download it from there. That's it. You go to a page where you say yes. You need to have an Excel spreadsheet. I don't have an Excel spreadsheet on my Mac here, but it's just a download. And once you download it on your Excel spreadsheet, I always do a little bit of a cleanup. You know what I mean? Some extra columns may be coming that I don't need, like the total column. I would just clean that and make it nice for the department to see it. But essentially, it's right here from Work Offline, download. You get an Excel file. And from there, you use the Excel to edit it and just kind of clean it a little bit if need be. So it's the download part, yes.
Hello, Pablo.
Go right ahead.
Hello, Pablo. This is Albert Call you speak.
Yes, go right ahead.
This is very informative, and I want to applaud you.
Albert, I think you have your microphone muted. I think we're not able to hear you. I think your microphone is muted. Could you just unmute it and share your question?
Yep.
Okay. My question is that you said that you're going to be sending us the recording of this video for Jose and Jetmir Troshani.
Correct.
And that would be very good. This is the first time I'm attending this conference, and I think this is overwhelming. It's great. It's fantastic, and I applaud you. But I would like to go over this in details. I'm a chemistry professor, and I want to make sure that I can follow these steps and study them by myself personally. And then get back to you. Most of them I've already done this with Jose. We put a lot of things on the Blackboard. My syllabi, as well as my research project and everything, all the guidelines, everything being set up, the due dates, the deadlines have been put. But all these detail of grading, the whole thing is so detailed, so overwhelming. So I would like to do this personally to go over them so I can be able to implement.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to add something to that. I remember when Blackboard came, especially the version 9.1 in 2011, I learned a lesson where if you need specific things and you do not want to watch like long videos, sometimes we go over an hour like here, please make a use of YouTube. There are many different resources as well. It's very, to me, I remember even before then, I would just look for specific things that I need. How do I upload syllabus? Okay. How do I create columns? Okay. How do I do this? And you would find specific videos on something that you're looking for, which may run for like 30 seconds for 1 minute. And I'm a big fan of those quick on point because, again, we want to save as much time and get on point and get the course running. So that just was a suggestion from one colleague to another. And thank you for your positive comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jetmir, here's a question from Luke. Can you explain why you make the points possible 100 for each assignment?
To me, it's a preference, Luke. It's just been easy for me to work with that way. And when it comes to the weighted total, similarly, where I covered the last week and somewhat this week as well on my recordings, when I do the weighting and then I just make sure that I give the weighted column, I give specific weights to different grades. So it's to me, Luke, it's a preference more than anything. Some instructors will build to 100% their grades. That's another way, you know. But to me, that's the reason. And I think it's a very good question. So let me share with you what I meant by, this is a final grade column. It's actually a weighted total. When I say weighted total, I mean, I'm sorry, weighted column, I'm talking about this column right here, weighted column. It actually weight.
Posting the grade and writing the comments in the feedback box.
Right.
Do that?
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, that was it.
Okay, so yeah, definitely. Right here you have, once you can actually get the file, Luke.
Yeah.
And then once you edit it on your own, let's say on your Word document, for example, right? Some folks do it that way, right? They do the comment from there. So once you're done with that, you can simply upload it from here. Like right here, insert file. And that becomes yet another feedback, right? So you can just start with here, say, please click below to download the, you know, wherever the file, the assignment that I edited. And then you make sure that you click on insert file here, and you would browse your computer and upload that editable file. I hope this clarifies it. So it's just many different ways of doing feedback on Blackboard, and eventually we all, like, to me, I find one way and I kind of like stick with it. But
that's the way.
Folks have different needs, so I understand that, Luke. And as I said, you always come up with wonderful questions. I appreciate that.
And you always have the answer, so thank you.
Too kind. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? You are free to unmute your microphone and jump in with a question for Jetmir.
Hello?
Yes?
Yeah, I just have a quick question about, I think Jetmir went over that, but I missed I think the end part of that. When I comment on the document itself, do I have to attach that, or it automatically gets submitted when I write my comment on the, let's say, Word document or a PDF? I write my comment saying that, well, this is incorrect because of this, or whatever comment I have for that problem. And do I still submit that in the box that's he just showed just now, the attachment? I have to attach that document again to the student to send it back, that feedback.
The point annotation mode that we used, essentially where we click here, where we click and leave, once you hit post here, it just stays there. You do not need to do any further action. It's done.
I see.
Students will come here and see wherever you see right now.
I see. So there is an option that says post comment, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. What about other folks who haven't had a chance to pose a question? This is your opportunity to raise a question about the Grade Center to Jetmir. Or if not, why not? What about a question about tests or quizzes that Jose went over in the first part of this session? Anybody You're free to unmute your microphone and jump in with a question.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. This is
Yes.
Joe Dobridge. When you're doing the test in terms of availability, I put don't make the test available, but I put the dates when they'll be able to display it. So if I have the display dates already set, can I now use that radio button and say, you know, make it available? Because it doesn't override the due dates. That was
correct.
It's a very simple question. I just want to be sure.
Yes. So you want to make sure you actually have the test available as yes.
Okay.
You can play around with all the settings on the bottom, but if you have it as set as to no, then those things will not kick in.
So I can set it as display, yes, but when to make it available, to students, yes, but it would still never display
until the
dates. Okay. I just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other question? Joanne, do you want to raise your question? I'm seeing something. Is there a way?
Thank you. Hi,
Go
Pablo.
right ahead. Go right ahead.
Hopefully you guys can hear me. I've just kind of figured out how to make the recordings available to my students, but now the issue is, and maybe it's just I don't understand what happens when I make it available, but my concern is during an exam, is there a way, because the exam will be administered through Blackboard, is there a way to limit access then to the recordings which are available in Blackboard Collaborate?
Well, the videos are already set into the recording part of the Blackboard Collaborate session. Your question was like, how do I limit those videos to be available to students that want to see it?
Well, if I'm administering an exam, then the videos shouldn't be available because then
they'll see the material.
Right. Want to see the answers, yeah. Jose, I'm not sure if this answers the question or helps answer the question, but I think there was an option to limit students from opening another tab or other parts of the Blackboard course while they're taking a test. Am I remembering that?
Yes.
Maybe that can help, because I think Joanne's question is, I want my students to be able to take the test, but I don't want them to go to the lectures and review exactly those parts and get the answers.
Right, that applies. Yeah, that applies, because if you were to, you cannot specify that, say on the Blackboard recordings that you want to hide this one. The only way that you'll be able to kind of like alleviate that, you'll have to delete the recordings, but I'm sure you probably don't want to go through that and delete all the recordings that you have made.
Or are you able to maybe, when you create a section on the content area, there's an option to create a section and not make it available to students? Is it a matter of not making available during that time so that they're not able, instead of deleting the files?
Yeah, you can do that as well. You can hide the tool. When you go into your tools and you have the Blackboard Collaborate session, there's a button right next to it that says hide. So let me share let me share the screen. Yeah.
Thank you.
So Joanne, in essence, Joanne, what you're going to do is you're going to hide the section where all of those lectures are so that students are not able to click on it.
Right. So for example, like even if you want to hide the tools and everything, you can do that. Let's say you have your exams in the exam section, like I organized it here.
Okay.
But you have your lectures and your content per se, right? But I don't want my students to see that. You can click on the drop-down arrow next to it, and then you can hide the link.
Okay.
Likewise, you can hide this in the tools. Like if you go to the tools, you don't need to hide the whole tools. You can just hide the Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. So you go to tools, and right next to it, there's a hide link. By doing that, the students won't be able to go into the Collaborate session.
Okay, thank you. I think that answers my question.
Great. Any other questions? We have 4 more minutes. Any questions about Blackboard test, quizzes, or grade center? Go right ahead.
Here, J.R. Anguk from MAC. Still, you explained this earlier, but I think Jose explained earlier, but I'm in a student mode and I cannot see the question posted because I was doing some tests, just trying to test the question. And when I look at the question, it says that it's available, but I don't see it in the student view. So where exactly am I supposed to look for that question if it's not in the student view?
Oh, you mean like the test is not available? Like you went into the student view, but you don't see the test that you created?
I don't see it, yeah, at all.
All right. So keep in mind that when you're creating it, you also want to make sure that that the availability of the test, those dates show. So for example, if you go to your test, you go to the test options, like whether you click yes or no on this, also make sure that the display, the dates doesn't show like a different date for the things.
Okay.
Because you could have it limited to this, to like a specific date. Let's say April 2nd. The test was April 2nd, but you say yes, I want to make it available for them. But you also need to see this as well.
Right. That so that yes, that makes sense. So I will have to because when I try to edit it, it's like too many options, and when I hit edit, when I click edit, it's just it doesn't give me more. I mean, it's just too many options. I guess it's just a matter of like dig into it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Adriana, you posed a question about how can I edit my video done with Blackboard, and I assume by editing you mean obviously tweaking, trimming parts of your video. Is that right? Is that what your question is trying to get at? Okay, so I think for that you would have to use a different editing video software like Premiere or Final Cut Pro or any other kind of video editing software, so that you can do further tweaking and then move that to either a site like YouTube or Vimeo or even Dropbox or OneDrive, and then share that with your students. Jose, is there a way to compress the size of the video if you edit it, or a 1 hour video will always be a large file? Is that something you can explain a bit?
Well, when the Blackboard, keep in mind when you want to
April 8th, professional development.
Oops. Go right ahead.
When you're creating the videos itself, you also want to make sure that since you want to download those videos, when you create a session, that you check off the option to have the option to download the videos
file
itself. Yes.
Okay.
That's one part of it. For example, right here, when you create a session, it allows recordings to be downloaded. So this way you can export it and then take it to the third-party software and then trim it. Because aside from that, there's no way that you can like make it smaller or anything like that, because the video gets converted into an MP4 format as a video. And then when you go to your recordings, you'll be able to download those videos and then open it up into another software, which you'll be able to trim and edit as you would.
Okay. Yes.
Jose, I have a question about what you said just now. When I had forgotten to check that box, download, allow downloads for my previous session. Is it possible for me to download them now? Because I see that I don't have that option. I can only watch my previous recordings. I cannot download them.
Also, when you created the videos itself, you didn't check off the option that says to allow.
Yes, I forgot to check that box, and now it's not allowing me to download those.
Is there any way to go around that?
I will have to contact Blackboard to see if there's a way, but I haven't been able to see so far as possible for that to happen. Okay. That's why when we create the sessions, we advise people, if you're thinking of downloading these, go ahead and make sure you check off that box, because after that, I don't think Blackboard will be able to do that. Or if we create a ticket, I don't know how long it will for them to be able to get back. And I don't even want to say that that's possible. So I want to say maybe not. I'm going to go for that.
And then one another related question concerning downloads. When I say allow downloads, does that mean students are also able to download it?
That's right. It applies for uni students.
But then how do we prevent? Because we don't want them to download that video and post it somewhere else, that you really do not want them to do that. So how do we prevent that? Like, it should allow the instructor to download and not students. And if the instructor wishes, the instructor can share the link with the students, or they can watch it on the Blackboard, right? So
because for cases like that, I'll suggest like a workaround. Maybe you click to download those files, and then you deposit it into maybe your OneDrive or share or Dropbox, and then you share the link of those videos into the content area of your Blackboard. If you don't want to prevent those this way, you hold those videos yourself. Because if you have it as recorded downloads, you're right, the student can go after the class and then just download those videos, and for when the test is due, maybe open those videos up. Those are possibilities. So if you want to prevent that, you can, like I said, maybe allow the option to download those videos, download them. Once it's completed, put it into your computer or somewhere in a video hosting website.
Right.
Delete those videos from the recordings from the Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, and then you store those videos into the content according however you want it.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
And then if you don't want your students to access them during a period of time, like Joanne's question was addressing, you can hide those links if they're taking a test, let's say. Right?
So in the test setting, there is a setting for hiding the content.
I don't think it is a setting on the test itself. It is there is an option to hide any section of your Blackboard content. It's not something on the test itself.
So it is under the tools where we can hide?
No, it's right next to, I think Jose is showing that.
Okay.
So when you're creating the test options itself, which means that there's an option for present the entire test in one screen. It'll give you the option for that. When you open the test, once it started, it wants you to finish the test itself. Another thing that we encourage users to do is when they're creating the questions themselves, they can randomize the questions. They can randomize the answers and stuff like that. This is just to alleviate some of those questions you might have as to the deploying a test online.
Okay, so it is 3:04. I want to thank everyone for attending once again. I want to thank both Jetmir and Jose, who as always have done a great job. Thank you guys for your support. Once again, this recording will be available hopefully tonight via the website that I shared at the beginning. I'm going to make sure that I email the link to everyone, and the recording will be available there, and also future sessions. Next Thursday at 2 o'clock, I'm going to send this registration on Monday, the registration link. There will be a session around Blackboard. Professor Sadler from the library will be facilitating a session for faculty to how to work with Dropbox and how to store content like video lectures or other documents, and how to link that to your Blackboard site so that you don't run into storage issues. So that's going to be next Thursday. I think it's the 9th. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll be sure to send that email, registration email on Monday to the whole faculty list. All right. So once again, thank you all for attending this session. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Stay safe.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.